What's up, house kids? Eric here. Today is Saturday, July 4th. That's right, it's Independence Day. I hope you're having fun celebrating Independence Day this weekend with your families. Independence Day is a day that us Americans celebrate when we officially said, you know what, we want to be our own nation. And we put it in writing and said, we're not a part of England anymore. We're going to be our own country. And they signed that document July 4th, 1776. And that's why we celebrate Independence Day on July 4th. So happy Independence Day to you. Let's get to the lesson. We left off with Jacob being told by God, I want you to go back to where you came from, the land of Canaan. And so he did that. He went with everyone, and on the way, God told him, you are not going to be known as Jacob anymore. You will now be known as Israel. So his name was changed to Israel. And so Israel is back in the land of Canaan. And if you remember, he had 12 sons. It's a lot of sons. And the youngest son, his name was Joseph. And he loved his son Joseph. In fact, he loved Joseph more than he loved his other 11 sons. And part of the reason why that probably is because, if you remember, most of his sons were born from his first wife, Leah, who he was forced to marry just so that he could marry the love of his life, Rachel. Now, Joseph, his youngest, was born from Rachel. So that's probably why he loves him more than the others, but it doesn't really make it right, in my opinion. I mean, I would be frustrated and sad and have a lot of bad feelings if I was the other brothers and felt like my parent loved me less than my other brother or sister, you know? But that's how it was. And one day, his dad Israel gave Joseph this amazing robe that he made him. It's like this kind of like this coat that just went over him. And it had all kinds of colors, multicolors in it, and it was spectacular. And Joseph loved it. And he wore it around, and his brothers were kind of jealous because they didn't get a robe. They didn't get some special robe that their dad made him. He did it for Joseph only. So they were pretty jealous. To make matters worse, Joseph started having some dreams. God gave him these dreams. And the first dream was Joseph and his 11 brothers were bundling up some grain, like some wheat, if you could imagine. And in the dream, his brothers' bundles of wheat all bowed down to Joseph's bundle of wheat. And what that meant is one day, his brothers were going to bow down to him. Now, that's a really interesting dream. Of course, Joseph, with his coat that he's very loved by his father for having, goes over to his brothers and tells them, hey, I had this dream. It went like this, and it means one day you're going to bow down to me. So his brothers were not happy. They're quite jealous already, and now their younger brother Joseph is telling him that they're going to bow down to him one day. He had another dream which was almost identical, and in this dream, though, it was the sun and the moon and 11 stars, which represented his family, his mom, his dad, and his 11 brothers, and the sun, the moon, and the stars all bowed down to him, meaning also one day his whole family would bow down to him. And he went and told his brothers. They were not happy, not pleased. They were very upset about this. And then one day, Israel tells Joseph, hey, go check on my other sons, see how they're doing. They're out in the field watching over some of my flock. And so he goes with his coat to go check on them. And on the way, they see him coming. And they're like, let's kill Joseph. They're that angry. They're ready to kill him. And thankfully, God wasn't going to have that happen. And Reuben, one of his brothers, wasn't quite there. Reuben still loved Joseph, even though he didn't like the way Joseph acted. And Reuben was like, hey, let's not kill Joseph. Let's just throw him into a pit. How about that? And so they agreed. So they took his robe from him, his fancy robe, and they threw him in this pit. And Reuben was planning on coming back later to help him out of the pit. Well, Reuben was gone, and he never got a chance to because his other brothers ended up selling him to some people that were going by on their way to Egypt. They sold him as a slave to them for some silver. So now Joseph is being carted off to Egypt to be a slave, right? And then the brothers took his robe and they got some animal's blood and they put that on the robe to make it look like something really bad happened to him and that he died. And they brought that to Israel, to their father, and said, look what we found. We don't know where Joseph is. And Israel saw it and he became very sad and he wept loudly for days. Now that's actually where this lesson is going to end today. What is going to happen with Joseph and all of this? We're going to find out next week. But I want to throw a couple things out there. One is that we've already learned from Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, who's now Israel, that God's plans happen. They always happen, right? And that we should trust in God. And now we're moving forward into a new area of the Bible where we're going to focus on the fact that God can do anything. Nothing is too big that God can't accomplish, especially when it's his plan that he wants done. And we will find out, I will give you a little hint about what happens. And God uses Joseph to save Joseph's family. All right? And so God wasn't going to allow Joseph to die. So thankfully, God saved Joseph from his brothers who were going to kill him. And it may seem like he's in trouble now, but he's not dead. So God saved Joseph so that later Joseph can save his whole family. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Jesus, because Jesus also had people turn against him, and they hated him, and they ended up killing him. But God used Jesus to save all of those people and all of us, because God loves all of us. And so this story is a little bit like God saving us with Jesus, right? And most of God's plans, when you really get to know him, are just rescue missions. It's God trying to save us because he cares about us and loves us. So tune in next week to figure out what happens to Joseph in Egypt. I have some stuff for you. You can print out. We got the coloring sheet this week. Here's Joseph in the bottom of a pit. And he looks pretty sad. I would be sad too. And there's his angry brothers. It says Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery. And this is really cool. It's not that difficult. You kids will be able to manage this pretty easily. But it's called Dreamcatcher, this activity sheet. And you're just going to find, there's hidden in here 10 bundles of grain and 11 stars. And so you're going to try and find them and circle all of them. And they're not too hard. Some of them is a little challenging, but that's fun. You get to look for those. And the craft this week from Robin is, look how cool this is. This is the robe or coat of many colors. And in the end, you will be able to flip it open. And on the inside, it says, "You planned evil against me. God planned it for good to bring about the present result." Genesis 50, verse 20. And so in the Dropbox folder down below, you will also have this little sheet you can print out, and the video, which is also down below. Robin will explain to you how to turn this into this. So have fun with that. That's all I have for you this week. Again, hope you're having a good Independence Day. If I don't see you tomorrow at church, I will see you right here on the video next week. You guys take it easy, and I'll see you later, alligators.